I find that what agencies can do for the client is very dependent on what the client wants them to do. Apart from in-house PR practitioners, most of them are consultants like yourself. How can the client get the best from the agency?
At a stage, what we're known for was what you call media relations. A lot of people wanted us to help them in terms of publicity and so on and so forth. But public relations has become a strategic management tool. And we've got to redefine that process or redefine our service offering as we go along, because we've got to tailor those service offerings to the desire of the client. So now, how do we get ahead of them? So take, for instance, at the point in time when you know that for you to circulate a press release, you needed to visit the media houses physically. I remember those days, from Concord to Daily Times, from Daily Times to Square. We just used to go. But now, so the client could hire us for that. The public relations, the in-house public relations person, not being able to do the rounds himself, he was busy doing other things, would engage us. But when now with technology at your desk, you can press a button and you can give different versions of press releases across a broad spectrum, local and international. So what does that mean to us? Like I said, we've got to redefine our services to make sure that we're one step ahead of the client, in such a way that what we can deliver and what we can offer, the in-house person, even though may be able to offer it, but not as efficiently. And that has brought a lot of challenge into our business. We are always re-strategizing. We are always redefining. We are always rekitting. We are always retooling the kind of service. So rather than being what I call a tactical function, it is now a strategic management tool. Furthermore, most businesses today, and this is my own prediction, the future of public relations is specialization. And we see ourselves like a general hospital or a teaching hospital where we have various specialists in-house. So under one roof, you have somebody who could be a brand specialist, you have somebody who could be a public affairs specialist, you have somebody who could be a reputation management specialist, you have somebody who could be an internal communication specialist. So we've got to harness all of that and then present it to the client. We've got to rely a lot on research and data so that we can be one step ahead of the client, and that's the way that they can appreciate the value we bring to the table.
You talked about the different kinds of people that are now involved in PR. PR in Africa used to be largely media-centric because the pioneers of the business were journalists and broadcasters. Do journalists necessarily make good PR?
Look, let's talk about the value chain. Let me use healthcare, for instance. The value chain, when you start, the doctor is at the peak, right at the peak of the value chain. But you have nurses that have been in the profession maybe for 10, 20 years, 30 years. And then when a doctor comes and he's just fresh out of college, maybe he's a resident, he still takes precedence over that nurse. Why? Because the training of the doctor is more holistic than the nurse. So while the nurse has the benefit of some training in the healthcare system, delivery system, and can do certain things, it is the doctor that has the more encompassing training to diagnose and then to prefer solutions which the nurse carries out. It's the same way with media or journalism and public relations. Journalism I believe that the bedrock of public relations can have a lot of journalism in it. I mean, it's good if you're trained as a journalist that you have a natural propensity that you can graduate to be a public relations practitioner. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. All I advocate is that do the conversion, change. If you've got a doctor, someone who studied medicine in the United States or in the UK and has come to Nigeria to practice, that person still does a conversion course. So while somebody who has studied the law in Nigeria spends 1 year at the law school, the person who did it abroad, in the UK especially, spends 2 years so that he can familiarize himself. So it's the same way that I believe that journalists, yes, they've got certain ingredients that can propel them to be good public relations practitioners, but they don't have the entire picture. And if we need to talk about that, perhaps you deal with that later on. You see, I can give you great examples of what is happening even in our polity now, that you realize the fact that some of the challenges we have in terms of image when it comes to government can be laid at the doorstep of putting a round peg in a square hole.
Is the Nigerian government doing enough to communicate its policies to the people?
No, I don't believe so. I believe that a lot more can still be done. Recently,
so what roles can public relations play in rebranding the country?
I believe that Nigeria must go through a certain part. From where we are coming from, there have been challenges in terms of a monoproduct economy, the problem we have with oil prices falling and all that. So we had to go through the challenges that we went through. But while you're going through that, what was the message? How is that message resounding? So that when I'm going through the challenges I am, or I'm experiencing what I've experienced, I believe that there's still hope. There's still hope. You know, there's a way that you can frame a message, the way it is delivered, by who it is delivered, that makes people become advocates of that message. And they are the very ones that can sell it. Now, the question is that how many of us are selling the government's message? When you talk to many people, one of the things that you find is that they're very despondent. And I speak as one person. I feel that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not holding brief for government. I'm just saying in the natural process of things, we've had a recession. There are certain things that have been done, plugging the leaks, and then putting some framework in place that if those things were not done, no amount of effort would take us to where we're going. And so, having done those things, I must admit, yes, the government, I believe they could have moved much faster than they did, but I believe we're on the right track. It's just the question of how much of that messaging is getting out there. How many Nigerians share in that view? I believe that in government now, government is chasing the information when the information should be chasing government. We should be the pace setter. Government should be the pace setter when it comes to information management. People should come to them to come and get the information. When there's a lacuna, it gives rise for all kinds of speculation.